I am a Michigan basketball fan who has seen enough Michigan basketball. In fact, I've seen every second of this Michigan basketball team this year to know this is not a good basketball team. They wanted to fool you that they were a good basketball team because Jalen Llewellyn and Kobe Buffkin made a couple jump shots in the first half. Terrence Williams made a couple jump shots in the first half. All these guys are like 32% shooters from three over their careers, not over the 6-game season. They're not good shooters. Look, Michigan, as I just said, I don't think this team's a very good basketball team, but they played pretty damn good tonight. And to my eye, about 80% of their problems are on the offensive end. It just comes down to making shots. And I know that sounds like oversimplifying it, but all offseason, we were told that the reason last year's team struggled was because they didn't have enough shooting around Hunter Dickinson. Devontae Jones wasn't a shot threat off the dribble. Moussa Diabate didn't give them any spacing at the 4. They needed to go out and get guys who fit better around this gift of a third season from Hunter Dickinson that they were getting. So they go get Jalen Llewellyn from Princeton. They ride with their guy, Kobe Buffkin, who was a McDonald's All-American, who's going to blossom into a big sophomore breakout year. And they say Terrence Williams is a shooting upgrade from Moussa Diabate at the 4. Through 6 games, that's been as disastrous as it can be. Like I said, those 3 guys are shooting a combined, I think, 25% from 3 on the season. There is no spacing. Tonight they made shots, and tonight they looked pretty damn good. 45 points in the first half against the Virginia Tony Bennett defense. So, Rob, does this team's problem just come down simply to these guys got to make shots?
I mean, you say simply you got to make shots, but I think that's a pretty big problem, right? That's not, we talk about this with a lot of different teams where when you can't shoot, you can't create space. We spent the last 2 shows on Field of 68 After Dark talking about how because there are no shooters for North Carolina, because you have those guys in the corner, there's no space for RJ Cole and Caleb Love to come off. Like it's you got to make shots is that's not a small problem. It is. Let me rephrase it.
Hey, North Carolina's not passing it. It didn't matter what shooters.
Well, no, it's not. What I'm saying, like if you're not making shots, that's an issue. If you have shooters, right. But I don't know if you necessarily would qualify the guys on Michigan as shooters. And to me, that's the biggest. That's a pretty big problem. Which is why they got a lot of open looks in the first half. And I don't think that Tony Bennett would have been too upset about the threes that they were getting. Right. Once you hit a couple, it's like, yeah, you got to close out. You can't let these guys get confidence and get going. But it wasn't, I think that's kind of what you live with, right? And I thought it was really interesting that about midway through the first half, Virginia, there's 2 things that Virginia does defensively, right? Outside of just the pack line. They hard hedge every single ball screen. Mm-hmm. They really take you off of that line, and then they double the post on the catch. Mm-hmm. And
which they didn't do that much tonight.
Yeah, they didn't do it to Hunter after the guy hit the first couple of threes. And they were like, all right, we're not doubling the post. Mm-hmm. So I think Michigan is better than what they've been. Right. And I think that there is still room for them to grow and room for them to improve, especially if Jet Howard plays the way they did in the first half tonight. I don't know if this is a team that is a top 25 team. And I don't know if this is a team that's going to finish in the top half of a Big Ten that looks like it's really good this year. Is that saying too much?
I think Michigan will be fine towards the middle of the Big Ten, like which probably, according to how things have gone here in the early going, that's probably a tournament berth. So whatever. But I think a lot of tonight's game had to do with how good Virginia was offensively. And those guys are finally coming together. Like Caden Shedrick is a big 7-foot talented dude who just hasn't been able to figure himself out until this season. And now he's pretty good. Reese Beekman is a problem. Preach the gospel of Reese Beekman. He is that good. He's that quick. You saw his explosiveness on that dunk where he drove down the middle of the lane. What did he end up with? 18, 5, and 4. And you have 5 assists in that offense where it is moving at a snail's pace. You're finding guys, and you're doing it within that offense. It's not necessarily all that easy to do because you have to break some guys down at the end of the clock and then figure something out. Reese Beekman's a problem. He has elite quickness, and because they play that pace they do, it makes him even more difficult to guard because he's slow, bang. When he decides to go, it's a real hard change of pace, and it's difficult to guard. Vanderplas was a good addition, too. This Virginia team is quality. Number 3
you know what makes them really good?
That good.
You know what makes them really good, T.O., is they have 2 point guards. Reese Beekman is a point guard. He plays off the ball because Kihei's there, but he is a point guard. He's a guy that can make plays. He's averaging 5 assists. He averaged 5 assists last season. He is a point guard. at 6'3". And I'm not going to run through the list now, but if you go back and you look at all of the teams that have won a national title since 2009, since the North Carolina team that had Ty Lawson at the point, right? Those 2010, 11, 12, the only team that didn't have 2 point guards on the roster or 2 point guards in the starting lineup was 2018 Villanova, where they had the national player of the year at the point and 4 different guys that averaged like 3 assists a game because all they do is drive and kick. That you need multiple playmakers on the floor to win a national title. And that's what we got. That's what we saw with
absolutely.
With
and a 4-man in Vanderplas that can make decisions. Jaden Gardner, who can make decisions. Armand Franklin up until tonight, shooting 42% from 3. He is an every other year dude. Get this. His freshman year at Indiana, 26%. Sophomore year, 42%. Last season, 29%. This year, 42%. Like, he's going to have a good year. He wasn't great tonight, but him being able to figure those things out and play within Tony Bennett's offense, like, I feel like he's just an added guy, right? So I think he's I think he is quality. I think this entire team, they're a national championship contender.
Yeah, I agree. They're ranked number 3, and that's not because their name is Virginia. By the way, they just showed a graphic. The Big Ten lost 5 games tonight. The only games that they won were against the 3 worst teams in the ACC so far in the ACC Big Ten Challenge.
Rob,
what's
the record? What's the record?
I don't mean to cut you off, Robert, but are we able to go into Schmedium 10 territory here? I called them the Little 10 in the summer, and then after 2 good weeks, I moved it up to the Schmedium 10. Is that a fair? I don't think they're the Big 10. I don't think they're the Big 10 right now. I think they're. So
you're not going to medium. You're going between small and medium. Is there 5 tiers?
I would say there's 4 tiers. I think you go.
No, I think that my take is they're the Big 10 right now, and they become the Schmedium 10 as everybody else gets better. That's why they're winning all these non-conference games. Like, if you look at it right now, like, T.O.'s take about this isn't wrong, right? Like, I think he went a little too far because, it was you got
this is too much. This is too much T.O. love for me on one night. Come on.
We've gone bananas. I'm not accustomed to all this love.
No, I mean, the Big Ten is really good right now because they have a lot of veteran teams that go. And one last point on Villanova, since we're talking about veteran teams, like that place was loud tonight. That place was
Virginia, right?
Yeah, Virginia. What did I say?
Villanova.
Yeah, Virginia. Sorry. That place was loud tonight. Michigan was rolling in the first half, but they were up by, what was it, 11 points at the half?
Yep.
When you're Virginia and like the pace that you play, an 11-point deficit is a pretty big deficit. And they didn't get rattled, and they came back, and they just went possession by possession, and they weren't forcing things, and they didn't rush it, and they didn't get out of what they do, and they came back and they won on the road against the first team All-American, against a team that was playing great in the first half. They gave it 23 second half points. Like, that was a really, really, really impressive second half. And just because it wasn't something where they won it by like 25, I don't think that we should underestimate what that was on the road. Like, it's T.O., you've played on the road in some of these crazy environments. It's hard to do stuff like that on the road. Doesn't matter who you're playing against.
It is, but their composure that kind of takes the air out of the gym, even though it's crazy. Like, because they're just like, well, we're just going to use all 30 seconds. It's kind of like when teams play Bellarmine, who kept up with Kentucky the first half. Like, it just kind of slow and slow and slow. You want to get into it. The fans want to go, but it's like playing against a football team that runs the ball all the time. Like, you're not going to have that many possessions, so sometimes it's hard to take off on them, right? Like, that's Virginia basketball, the strongest running game in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Rob, you just referred to Hunter Dickinson as a first-team All-American. Can I say something a little spicy as a Michigan fan here? Listen, are we sure we can call him that anymore? Like, and I know this is not his fault. Hunter was great tonight. He was fantastic, especially in the first half. I mean, they had an 11-point lead in large part because of Hunter Dickinson and the gravity he brought to that game. And some other guys made some shots, but it was him. But you're not taking him over Zach Edey right now. You're not taking him over Chris Murray right now. You're not taking him over Trace Jackson Davis right now. And this man has floated through a lot of Michigan struggles this season. He showed up tonight. He was pointing at Tony Bennett tonight, doing the too small thing tonight. We got big game Hunter tonight. But I think we got to dial back the first team all everything stuff with Hunter because he's not there every single night. And this team, you can't get away with that.
Another thing, too, Hunter Dickinson, like, if you're getting guarded by Ben Vanderplas, who's every bit of 6'8", maybe, can't go 9 for 17 getting single covered.
Yeah.
Like you're a big fella. Like there's not as much forgiveness or percentages are concerned. You need to be up in that 65 range, especially if they're single covering you and you're a first team All-American.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't, if we were doing an All-American team right now, I wouldn't put Hunter Dickinson there. I was just kind of saying it for effect. Once you've been a first team All-American, I think it's fair to label you as a first team All-American. So, but you're 100% right. Yeah. Big game Hunter. The only time he doesn't show up, it feels like, is when he says he's going to beat a team by 20.
Yeah.
And then you get 30 pieced.
No comment on that. It's going to be a long up and down year for Michigan fans like myself out there. But when you bet at Bet Rivers, you can pack your pockets a little and feel a little bit better, folks.